Paul W.S. Anderson has finished his series of video game screen adaptations with Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. But instead of taking a few steps back and enjoying his days off, the director is already eyeing the next video game, Monster Hunter. What is Monster Hunter? For all of you out there that are not that familiar with the franchise, Monster Hunter and its sequels were sold over 40 million times worldwide, and the franchise is especially popular in Asia. Monster Hunter is an action role-play game that takes place in a fantasy world inhabited by monsters. The player takes on the role of the Monster Hunter and has to solve numerous different quests. While traveling through gigantic worlds, he or she is hunting down monsters, salvaging their body parts in order to build both armaments and weapons. As the game progresses, these monsters become continuously bigger and harder to kill. A simple beating won't do the trick. Every monster needs to be studied by the hunter. Its weakness must be found in order to come up with a strategy to defeat it.
Let them fight.
Monster Hunter the film. Paul W.S. Anderson has been confirmed as both writer and director of the film. After setting up an entire film franchise based on Capcom's Resident Evil, he is now set to do the same for Monster Hunter. And a script supposedly exists already. Apparently the film will focus on an average American who one day finds out that he is in fact the descendant of a long-forgotten hero. Comparably forgotten seems to be the fact that monsters from the known mythologies used to actually exist, and for every single monster there used to be a hero who would fight it. But once the monsters disappeared, so did the need for heroes, who soon became forgotten. Upon learning about the past, the titular hero is transported to a parallel universe in which monsters still live. Soon he has to learn what it takes to become a monster hunter, because these creatures threaten our world as well. So Anderson's vision sounds a lot like The Matrix, only with monsters. And just like Neo, Anderson's hero will have to learn how to deal with this other world in order to save his own.
Welcome to the real world.
Fascinating worlds. The Monster Hunter games are notorious for their fascinating worlds. Whether high mountain chains, jungle worlds, desert or cave systems, the player is introduced to an incredible variety of emerging worlds. During an interview, Anderson expressed his own fascination with these worlds and compared them to franchises like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. Great idols which will hopefully be used as an inspiration in order to suck us into engaging worlds.
Welcome!
Gigantic monsters. This world has to be populated by huge monsters, and even if the film chooses to limit itself to monsters of known mythologies, it would still be able to offer us a great variety of creatures. However, Anderson should definitely take the game mechanics into consideration, as these monsters cannot simply be defeated by frontal attacks. The player has to use his or her wit, and so should the hero of the film. We do not need a simple monster mash film. We want to see a hunt in which said hunter has to study his or her prey. This would give the monsters the chance to shine with their monstrous beauty.
Your luggage.
Brave, brave hunters. The monster hunters of the games are beefcakes, and they have to be. After all, they are constantly carrying the most heavy equipment and armory. And this is exactly what we want to see. Give us a Dwayne Johnson as a monster hunter who slowly has to learn to use his abilities as a hunter in order to face the biggest monsters. And even though we want them to look like the Hulk, they should always rely on their intellect when hunting monsters.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
An engaging story. Paul W.S. Anderson's Monster Hunter will start out in our world, then continue in the world of monsters, only to be relocated to our world again in the finale. As we already mentioned before, that does remind us of Matrix, which does not necessarily need to be a bad thing. If Anderson manages to give us a hero who is fighting for something and who is able to lose something, someone we can identify with, this movie could be quite interesting. It must simply not lose itself in its own CGI monsters. The monster hunters must be relatable, and even the monsters themselves should have their own individual personality. If this basic framework fits, so could the rest. Especially since Anderson has a distinct advantage. The games do not have an actual story, which is why he should have enough freedom to come up with his own mythology in order to give these films a strong backdrop. What do you think? Are you looking forward to the Monster Hunter film? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you'd like to learn more about the Uncharted film or the blockbusters of 2018, then check out these videos.